When we relocated to a smaller town in Vermont for my wife's job, I figured the biggest adjustment would be dealing with the cold or learning my way around a quieter neighborhood. I never expected that the scariest part of the move would come from inside an elementary school. My name is Henry, and this story isn't easy to tell. Not because it's traumatic, but because I still feel like I didn't protect my daughter when she needed it most. My daughter Lily was 10 at the time, a sensitive, artistic, and bright girl. She had always had a knack for making friends easily, so when she started at her new school, I wasn't worried. Within the first week, she came home talking about a girl named Clara. I remember her saying Clara was quiet, but nice. Apparently, they had been paired up for an art project and got along right away. I figured that was a good sign. But something about Clara unsettled me even then. Lily described her as being very specific about rules when they played. Rules that didn't make a lot of sense. For instance, they had to whisper certain words before drawing, or tap their pencils 3 times before starting an activity. Lily thought it was funny. I chalked it up to imagination. About 2 months into the school year, I got a call from the principal's office. My wife was out of town, so I left work early to handle it. Apparently, Lily had slapped Clara across the face during art class. I was floored. My daughter wasn't violent. She was the kind of kid who cried if she stepped on an ant. When I picked her up from school, Lily wouldn't say a word the whole car ride home. Her silence made my stomach churn. That night, after dinner, I gently brought it up again. Her eyes welled up with tears. "She told me to do it," Lily said. "She said it was part of the magic game." At first, I thought she was just trying to avoid punishment, but something about her tone was different. She said Clara had given her exact instructions the night before, like a script. At exactly 11:20, when the teacher turns around, hit me with your left hand. Then say, "The spell is complete." I didn't know what to say. Later that night, I got a call from a woman who introduced herself as Clara's mother, Evelyn. Her voice was gentle, soothing even. She told me she'd heard about what happened and didn't want it to turn into a bigger issue. "Clara told me the truth," she said. "They were playing a pretend game, and it went too far. No hard feelings at all." I was surprised by her kindness, though something about her seemed rehearsed. Still, I appreciated her calmness, and we left it at that. A few days later, Lily came home with a note. Clara had invited her for a sleepover that weekend. At first, I hesitated, but Evelyn followed up with a warm voicemail, assuring me she'd supervise everything. My wife, just back from her trip, thought it might be a good opportunity for Lily to feel more settled. So, Saturday evening, we dropped Lily off. The house was neat, older, and tucked in a wooded lot just outside town. Evelyn greeted us warmly and gave off that perfect mom vibe. Tidy apron, herbal tea in hand, gentle voice. Lily seemed excited. She hugged me goodbye and skipped inside. At 7 a.m. the next morning, my phone rang. "Dad, can you come get me? Now." Her voice was tight, trembling. When I pulled up, Lily was already on the porch with her backpack, staring at the ground. I waved to Evelyn, who stood in the doorway, but she didn't return the gesture. Just closed the door. Lily was silent until we were halfway home. "I saw Clara in the hallway last night," she said. She was talking to the mirror. I asked her what she meant. She wasn't being Clara. She called herself Mother Faye. She had candles around her and said I had to stay still, or the house would eat me. I nearly pulled the car over. "She touched my arm and said she could take my dreams if I ever told anyone," Lily whispered. "But I'm telling you anyway." I didn't know what to say. Half of me wanted to believe it was a dream. The other half remembered the odd tone in Evelyn's voice and the way Clara always made strange rules. I called Evelyn that evening. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "Hi, it's Henry, Lily's dad. We need to talk about last night." No response. 2 days later, I tried again. Voicemail. By Friday, I called the school. The secretary told me Clara had been withdrawn from enrollment earlier in the week. "What?" I said. "Where did they go?" We weren't given a forwarding address. My wife and I drove to the house. It was empty. A "for sale by owner" sign was stuck in the lawn. No boxes, no truck, nothing. Inside the mailbox was a sealed envelope addressed to Lily. There was no return address or stamp, just a short note, handwritten in delicate cursive. "Thank you for playing the game. You were brave. We'll remember." We never saw Clara or Evelyn again. I've searched online, checked school records, and even tried social media. There's no trace of either of them. Lily's okay now. She doesn't talk about it much, and I don't push. But sometimes I catch her staring into the bathroom mirror, her lips moving silently, like she's mouthing something she heard long ago. To any parent reading this, if your child tells you something strange, listen. Don't brush it off. Some kids aren't just quirky, and some games should never be played. Before we dive into the next story, if you're here for the first time, please consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. Your support truly encourages us and helps this channel continue to grow. And don't forget to share these stories with your friends and family. Thank you. My name is Rachel, and I grew up in a remote part of rural Texas, the kind of place where church wasn't just part of life, it was the center of it. My father was a devoted Pentecostal man who took every word of the Bible as literal truth. He didn't believe in mental illness. To him, every issue of the mind was a matter of spiritual warfare. If someone struggled with depression, anxiety, or schizophrenia, it wasn't a medical condition, it was a demon. My mother was quieter, always in the background, eyes always darting away, hands always wringing. She didn't speak up much, especially not when my father was around. I wouldn't call her loving, exactly. Just afraid. Like she was always bracing for something to happen. Growing up, I leaned into religion. It gave me structure, a way to feel like the world made sense. But that structure began to crack around the age of 13, when I started having the dreams. The first one came during a thunderstorm. In the dream, I was lying in my bed when I heard the floor creak. My father stood in the doorway, his eyes black, his mouth murmuring scripture in a whispering drone. He walked to my bedside and placed his hand on my forehead, hard, like he was trying to force something out of me. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just laid there as he muttered something about cleansing the impure. I woke up soaked in sweat, heart hammering. But the worst part was what happened the next night. I was fully awake, reading with a flashlight under my covers, when the door creaked open. My father was standing there. Same blank stare, same mumbling. He walked into my room, put his hand on my forehead and said, "Let what dwells be cast out." I gasped. He blinked, turned, and walked out without a word. The next morning, I asked him what he was doing in my room. He stared at me, puzzled. "I never came into your room last night," he said. "You must have dreamed that." I wanted to believe I had, but I knew I hadn't. Things got worse after that. I'd catch him talking to himself in the barn or in the fields, usually at night. Once I heard him crying, then laughing. The sound echoed across the dry grass like it didn't belong in this world. But the night that changed everything came just a few months later. I had gone out to close the chicken coop when I noticed a glow coming from the far side of the field. I crept closer, heart racing. My father was standing alone in the center of the field. He was barefoot. His shirt was off, and in his hands was a Bible engulfed in flames. He held it high, muttering in what sounded like tongues, words I didn't understand. The fire flickered on his face, but he didn't flinch. He just stood there, reciting something only he could hear. I turned and ran back to the house, bolting the door behind me. When he returned an hour later, he was covered in ash and didn't say a word. He just went to his room and shut the door. The next day, he asked me if I'd done my homework, like nothing had happened. A few weeks later, my church hosted an overnight youth retreat. We camped out in a chapel up in the hill country. I was relieved to go. Church was the only place that felt normal. The pastor was kind. The air felt lighter there, and I could be around other teenagers who didn't act like they were hiding something sinister behind a holy smile. That night, after dinner and games, we all spread out our sleeping bags and settled in. Around 3 a.m., we heard it. Knocking. It came from the back of the chapel at first, then the side, then the front. It moved, impossibly fast, like something was circling the building. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. It was deliberate. The other girls in my group sat up, whispering nervously. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a prank. Then someone knocked on the window directly behind me. I screamed. The pastor, who had been sleeping in his office, came rushing out. As soon as he entered the main hall, the knocking stopped. He opened the front door. My father was standing outside, barefoot, eyes wide, soaked in sweat. But it hadn't rained in days. His lips were moving, but we couldn't hear any sound. I didn't know what to feel. Terror, confusion, shame. The pastor stepped in front of me, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. "You need to leave," he told my father. My father didn't respond. He just stared at me and smiled. Not warmly, not lovingly. A slow, unnatural grin that stretched too long and showed too much gum. "I'm taking my daughter home," he said. The pastor stepped between us. "She's safe here," he said. "You need to go." My father didn't fight. He simply turned and walked back into the dark woods. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When I got home the next day, my father was in the living room eating breakfast. He looked up and said, "You get enough sleep last night?" I asked him what he was doing at the chapel. He stared at me, confused. "I've been here all weekend." I looked at my mom. She said nothing, just kept her eyes on her plate. No one in the church brought it up again. The pastor never mentioned it. My friends acted like it hadn't happened. Even my mother never spoke a word of it. It was like they had all agreed to pretend nothing was wrong. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I had dreamed it all. But I hadn't. Years passed. I left home. I went to college. I got therapy. My counselor told me it was likely repressed trauma, that I was the child of someone with undiagnosed mental illness and possibly generational abuse. Maybe the night terrors were my brain's way of protecting me from something worse. Maybe. But then, why do I still dream of him? Even now, as an adult with a life of my own, I still wake up in the dead of night and hear the knock on the window. I still see his eyes, empty and unblinking, standing at the edge of my bed. And I still hear his voice, deep and distorted, whispering scripture that no Bible I've ever read contains. It started with the sound of breathing, not loud, not ragged, just steady, too steady, like someone was standing inches from my face, inhaling in sync with the darkness. At first, I thought it was part of a dream. I'd had vivid nightmares before, especially since the move. But when I opened my eyes and saw my daughter Emma standing at the foot of my bed, whispering nonsense to the shadows, I realized it wasn't. She wasn't awake. Her eyes were open, but blank, and her voice had no shape. Just strange syllables like broken pieces of another language. She stood there for maybe a full minute before I dared to speak her name. She didn't respond. She just turned, calmly, and walked back to her room. That was the first night. The first sign that something in our house was waking up. Emma was 10 when the episodes began. At first, it was just her talking in her sleep. Innocent, even cute. Murmured phrases about dreams, imaginary games, odd bits of conversation. I'd hear her giggling or muttering nonsense through the baby monitor and chuckle to myself. But within a week, the behavior shifted. She began sitting bolt upright in bed at precisely 3:17 a.m. Every night, eyes wide open, mouth moving, no sound. I only discovered the timing because I'm a light sleeper. One night, I checked the clock out of curiosity. Then the next. And the next. Always 3:17. She'd stay that way for several minutes, motionless except for her lips, whispering things I couldn't understand. Her head always turned to face the far left corner of the room, like she was trying to see something that wasn't visible. She never remembered a thing in the morning. I thought maybe it was a phase, or stress. The girls had only just started at a new school. My wife had passed 2 years earlier, and we'd moved to Oregon hoping for a fresh start. A quiet place, a safer life. I told myself it was my imagination, that I was being an overprotective parent, seeing ghosts and shadows. But I couldn't ignore the feeling that something wasn't right. Not anymore. 3 weeks into Emma's strange behavior, her twin sister Lila began doing the exact same thing. It was like watching a playback. They'd both sit up, at the same time, in the same rigid posture, then turn their heads slowly toward the far left corner of their shared bedroom. Their lips moved in eerie unison, silent but determined. It was mechanical, rehearsed, like some kind of strange ritual I hadn't taught them. I started sleeping with the door open just to keep an eye on them. One night, I couldn't help myself. I filmed it. I watched the footage back over breakfast while the girls got ready for school. There they were, synchronized like dancers in a slow, haunted ballet, staring at the same corner, lips fluttering with silent words. It made my skin crawl. I paused the footage, zoomed in, and played it again and again. I was looking for clues, anything to rationalize what I was seeing. There weren't any. I didn't show them the video. I didn't want to scare them. But deep down, I was terrified. It felt like something had taken root in our house. Something that was using my children. I moved their beds, repainted the walls. I tried everything I could think of to break the pattern. But it didn't help. They always turned toward that corner. There was an old wardrobe pressed against the wall there. It came with the house, left behind by the previous owner. It was huge, solid oak, probably antique. I'd never bothered moving it. But now, I had a reason. I waited until the girls were at school, then spent half the afternoon dragging it aside. Dust exploded from behind it, making me cough. The floorboards beneath were warped with moisture. The back wall was different, aged differently, like time hadn't passed the same behind the furniture. The wallpaper back there was different, older, yellowed, peeling in long, curling strips, and just visible behind it, a strange outline, like something had been covered on purpose. My hands were shaking. I didn't know why, but some part of me knew this wasn't going to be good. I scraped away the top layer and uncovered a panel. It wasn't part of the original wall. It had clearly been added later, like a patch. My pulse quickened. I felt something beneath my ribs twist. I pried it open. Inside was a hollow space, about the size of a milk crate, nestled into the wall between two support beams. Inside, I found a velvet pouch tied with twine, A child's left shoe, scuffed and moldy. A small wooden crucifix, cracked down the middle. And a journal. I pulled each item out with slow, careful hands, as if they might shatter or scream. The pouch was filled with what looked like dried petals, maybe roses long decayed to dust. The crucifix was cold, ice cold, like it had been buried in snow, though the house was warm. The journal's pages were delicate, nearly disintegrating when I touched them. But what I could read chilled me. It wasn't a diary in the traditional sense. It was more like a record. A list of dates and times, entries scrawled by hand in jittery ink. One phrase repeated over and over again. They gather at 3:17. Some entries were just symbols, circles with X's through them, crude sketches of what looked like children with empty eyes. The entry stopped abruptly in 1954. I didn't know what to make of it, but I burned the pouch, the crucifix, and the shoe in our fire pit that evening. I wrapped the journal in plastic and put it in the shed, just in case. That night, for the first time in nearly a month, the girls slept peacefully. It stayed that way for a while. Peaceful? Normal. I let myself believe that I'd fixed whatever had gone wrong. Until one afternoon, I walked past the girls' bedroom and heard Emma whispering. I stopped. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, her back to the door, speaking in a low tone. I thought maybe she was talking to Lila, but the room was empty. I edged closer. "They're not gone," she whispered. "They're just hiding. Waiting." She turned slowly, saw me, and smiled like nothing had happened. "Talking to yourself?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I was just remembering," she said. That word, remembering, sent a jolt through me. Remembering what? The sleepwalking? The whispering? She wouldn't answer any more questions. She just changed the subject and began humming to herself. That night, I resealed the hollow in the wall. I covered it with new drywall, painted over it, and pushed the wardrobe back. I didn't tell anyone, not even the girls, especially not the girls. I didn't sleep well. I kept imagining voices in the house, soft, rhythmic breathing behind the walls. I kept checking the clock, convinced I'd see 3:17 staring back at me. I stayed up 3 nights in a row. Nothing happened. Then came the 4th. I woke up gasping, heart pounding, drenched in sweat. My clock read 3:17 a.m. The room was quiet, still. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I turned to the corner and saw nothing. Still, I felt it. That horrible sensation of being watched, like someone was behind me, just out of sight, breathing in time with my thoughts. I didn't wake the girls. I didn't move. My body was frozen. My hands trembled under the blanket. Eventually, the feeling passed. But it returned the next night. And the next. Each time, I would wake up with the exact same feeling. Not fear. Terror. Something wanted to be seen. Something was waiting for me to notice it. I couldn't sleep anymore. I began keeping lights on, sleeping in the living room, and doing anything to avoid that room. But it didn't matter. 3:17 still came. I did the only thing I could think of. I brought the journal back inside. Maybe it was a mistake to remove it. Maybe it was a mistake to burn the rest. I don't know. I flipped through the brittle pages again. One entry caught my attention. It described a boy named Nathaniel, age 10, who began hearing the knockings before the voices came. It was dated September 1953. The next entry just read, "Nathaniel is gone. The watchers are still hungry." I felt sick. I started researching the house's history. Turns out it had changed owners 10 times in the last 50 years. Most of them had no kids, 2 couples left abruptly, one after only 3 months. I found no records of anyone named Nathaniel. The next night, the tapping returned. I knew the sound instantly. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails on plaster. I ran to the girls' room and found them both sitting up, wide-eyed, mouths still. They weren't whispering this time. They were listening. "Who's there?" I asked before I could stop myself. Their heads turned to me in perfect sync, and they smiled. Not their smiles. Their eyes were wrong, too glassy, too knowing. I backed out and closed the door, heart hammering in my chest. When I opened it 30 seconds later, they were asleep. Like nothing had happened. Like it hadn't been real. But I knew better. I bought salt, poured it in long lines across their windowsills and across the threshold of the room. I duct-taped the closet shut. I ripped out the entire corner drywall where the hollow had been and filled it with insulation, foam, concrete, anything I could find. And still, the next night, 317 came like a ritual. I didn't hear tapping, I heard giggling. I ran in and found both girls asleep, but carved into the wall, deep and fresh, were the words, "Welcome back." I left the house the next morning. We moved into a rental 2 towns over. I took time off work. I didn't explain it to the girls beyond saying the old house needed long-term repairs. They didn't protest. It's been 6 months. No whispering, no tapping, no more 317 wake-ups. Until last night. I woke up in a cold sweat, looked at the clock. 3:17 a.m. I held my breath. The rental house was still. Emma and Lila were asleep. I walked the halls in silence. The moonlight through the blinds painted bars across the floor. Everything looked normal. And then I noticed it. On the back of Emma's closet door, in faint, dusty streaks. We followed. I don't know what they are. I don't know why it started. But I know it hasn't ended. I kept both girls home from school. I've spent the day checking locks, burning sage, calling priests and therapists alike. No one knows what to tell me. No one believes me. But tonight, I know it's coming again. 317 is never late. And this time, I think it's not just them they want. It's me. Since this all began, I've kept notebooks, dozens of them, filled with times, events, dreams the girls had, and things they'd said in their sleep. I've tracked moon phases, barometric pressure, and even magnetic field shifts. Nothing lines up. Nothing fits. I've tried reaching out to forums, paranormal investigators, clergy. No one gets past the first few sentences before they either ghost me or give me a number to a therapist. I've been to therapy. I'm not crazy. But I think this house made me something else. Something worse. I'm not a skeptic anymore. I'm a witness. If you're listening to this and you have children, watch them. Pay attention. Because sometimes what looks like sleepwalking isn't. Sometimes it's something trying to come through. Soon.